What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to have a look at my top 10 FPL cheap enablers that can still score you all those FPL points. Let's get into it. Welcome back everyone to another video. So as I mentioned, we're going to have a look at my top 10 cheap enablers from goalkeeper, defender, midfielder and strikers throughout all the positions. So when you're looking to own the players that we've got there, the likes of Kane, Salah, De Bruyne, Trent, Bruno Fernandes, when you need those cheap players in your starting 11, so not just the 4.5 midfielders or the 4.0 defenders, the ones that can still start for you and score those points, that's what we're going to go through today. So not just players that can sit on your bench, but players that can still score you points if you need. So let's get into them. The first one that we have is Smith Rowe at Arsenal, who comes in at 5.5 million as a midfielder. So last season he performed really well. It was a great first season for Smith Rowe, sort of breaking into that new young looking Arsenal team, playing sort of attacking midfield, and then lost his place a little bit to Odegaard. However, he's likely to get that position back if Arsenal don't sign a replacement, as Odegaard has gone back to Real Madrid and it doesn't look like he'll be coming back at any point. He scored 4.6 points per 90 minutes, which is a great return for a 5.5 million midfielder. And the opening fixtures for Arsenal are good. They're not amazing, but Brentford and Norwich in the first four particularly. So Smith Rowe, as well as if you could rotate him with a 4.5 defender potentially that we'll get through in this video, it could be a great option to help you save a little bit of money while still having some potential return. So worth keeping an eye on potential transfers for Arsenal, but I think Smith Rowe is in for another big season. Next up, we have 4.5 defender Lautens from Burnley. Now, this could have been Peters or Taylor. However, at left back, there's a slight uncertainty about who's going to start every week because both Peters and Taylor are very good. However, Lautens over Bardsley on the right-hand side feels much more assured, and so you're much more likely to get Lautens starting each and every game. Charlie Taylor is probably first choice at left back, although he has had injury concerns in the last season. So I've gone with Lautens at 4.5 on the right-hand side. Both the centre-backs are 5 million in me and Tarkowski, and Pope in goal is 5.5. So being able to pick up a Burnley defender for just 4.5 million feels really good. They only kept 11 clean sheets last season, which is why they haven't had the full price increase to 5 million, and you're still able to get them at 4.5 for the right back and left back. However, they did finish third the season before for clean sheets kept with 15. And actually, they've had a lot of injury concerns in their defence, with Taylor out, with me out, with Tarkowski being injured. So I can only see Burnley improving on their defensive performances from last season. So 11 clean sheets last season I can definitely see going up, and Lautens has the potential for a few attacking returns. He got a goal and some assists last season, but 4.5 million for a defence that we know can be solid defensively because they don't score that many goals, I think is definitely a good price for him. A good opening set of fixtures. They have a few in there that you might want to play them against. Brighton at home, Leeds at home isn't the best, Everton away, but as you said, if you can rotate a few in these options, he's definitely good to be part of your squad, particularly game week 1 or later in the season. But 4.5 for Lautens is definitely a player that I'll consider throughout the season as a good cheap enabler. Next up, we have Podence of Wolves, who comes in as a 5.5 million midfielder and hasn't seen his price increase from last season. Podence is was one of the most talked about players at the beginning of last season. He hit a really nice patch of form. However, Jimenez then got injured, Podence had a few injuries himself, and Wolves just fell off a cliff in terms of their form. However, he was really good when he was fit last season, and Jimenez is likely to be back. He does seem like he'll be continuing to start. There's talk about Adama Traore going out from Wolves. Neto is still injured for the first few months, so it does feel like the first sort of 6-7 game weeks Podence will likely start unless they bring in a replacement for him. The new manager from Wolves as well is likely to be more attacking than we've seen potentially from that 5 at the back from Nuno, so let's hope that it can give Podence a bit more of a free rein to get forward. They also have some really nice fixtures in their opening 6 game weeks. So they've got Watford, Brentford and Southampton in their first 6. So it may be worth waiting after the Leicester, Tottenham and Manchester United games in the first 3 to see exactly who's going to start for Wolves. But they do have some really nice fixtures. And with Jimenez back, a new manager and all their players back fit, that we expect them to hit the ground running a bit more than they have done so far. So next onto the list, we have Sanchez, our only goalkeeper in the list, and we've spoken a little bit about Sanchez before, but he has a great set of opening fixtures and plays for a defence which we know has the capability of keeping a lot of clean sheets. It was the third best expected defence last season, but actually because they underperformed their numbers, he didn't get the price rise to potentially 5 million, which he deserved, and remained at just 4.5 million this season. He makes a good amount of saves, which as we've spoken about is really important for goalkeepers, not just the clean sheets, but be able to make saves and so get bonus points on top of that to make a 6-point return, potentially 7, 8 or 9. And so in my opinion, the 4.5 goalkeeper Sanchez is one of the best goalkeepers to own this season. If he was 5 million, I'd probably still consider owning him. Sanchez will be my starting goalkeeper this season unless something drastic happened, especially given their start to the season with Burnley, Watford, Everton, Brentford, Leicester and Crystal Palace in their first 6. He had good returns last season and I can only see him getting better, and I don't expect him to be low owned this season, and I expect his price to only go up from there. Next up, another Burnley option. It's actually our only 4.5 midfielder in the whole video, so I think he's the best 4.5 midfielder option we have and does play for Burnley. So he's likely to be playing attacking midfielder on the sort of right hand side, right wing, right midfield for them. At 4.5 million, he's the better option. There's the likes of Gilmore, Basuma, Romeu at Southampton who may be starting, but Brownhill definitely has the most attacking threat out of all those 4.5 options. Burnley don't really spend a lot of money, as we've seen in transfer markets, so it's unlikely they sign someone that's going to compete to him. He performed well last season, didn't get as many attacking returns as he potentially could have done, so I think 4.5 million is actually a really nice price for him. I was expecting him to be up at 5 million or so, but with him likely to being starting consistently, he gets the most attacking returns. If you have a spare midfielder slot, he's definitely the one I'd go with because he does have that attacking return potential if you do occasionally need him to come off your bench because an injury or someone has a bad fixture and you fancy him, then Brownhill is definitely the one that I'd go with and definitely has the most attacking threat out of any of those 4.5 midfielders. Next up is a 4.5 defender that we can go with in Faufana of Leicester. So again, when you've got a few of these in your team, you can start to rotate them, and for Leicester have a really nice opening start to the season, which I think could make Faufana at 4.5 million a really nice option. We've spoken a little bit about him in previous videos as one of the most underpriced players this season, and I think he could be a really nice budget enabler for you all as well. Wolves at home, Norwich, Brighton, Burnley in their first 6. I could easily see 3 clean sheets coming for Leicester in their first 6 games, which would be a great return from a 4.5 defender. He has their 5th best sort of expected defence. Leicester were really strong defensively last season. They dropped off a bit at the end, but everyone back fit for the start of the season. I expect Leicester to do well, and those first 6 fixtures look really good for Faufana to hit the ground running again now that he's more adapted to the league. He took his time, especially with Ramadan at the end of last season, not being fully fit, having to drink and eat sort of during the game for the late kickoffs. So I think Faufana at 4.5 million is only going to get better from where he was. His points per start weren't that high last season, which is why he's only at 4.5 million, but I think he's been underpriced, and that's a really nice start to the season for Leicester. Next up, we have Mbuemo at Brentford, who comes in as a 5.5 million. So a lot of us are talking about going for Ivan Toney at 6.5 million as a forward, and I think he's a really nice option. However, there's a lot of people who maybe don't have 6.5 million to spend, or they don't want to spend 6.5 million on a newly promoted player, and I think Mbuemo offers a really nice, slightly cheaper alternative. He got 10 assists and 8 goals last season, so not quite as many as Ivan Toney, but is costing $1 million less. He does get an extra point for a goal and does get a clean sheet point if Brentford are to keep any. He plays on the wing on the right hand side or as a second striker alongside Toney, so there is definitely potential to sort of get attacking returns. Toney is on penalties, so he is a nice option at 6.5. However, at 5.5 million, if you are a bit stretched, I think he's one of the nicest midfielders that you can get there, and they have a decent start to the season. They've got Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Brighton, Wolves and Liverpool, but we know that a lot of the newly promoted teams try and hit the ground running and trying to continue to play their attacking football, and Brentford were the highest scoring team in the Championship last season, so I expect them to try and score some goals early on this season. Even if it means they lose a few games, I think they'll try and stick to the style that they've been playing at. So 5.5 million and Mbuemo is definitely a good enabler if you can't afford Toney. Next up is Luke Aling, but just before we do that, there is a link in the description to Fantasy Football Hub, which will get you 25% off. It's where I get all my stats, it's where I do all my analysis for my players, for the fixtures coming up, everything like that, comparison between the players. So if you're interested in that, there is a 25% off offer for pre-season. There's a link in the description. Go and check that out. Aling, my 4.5 defender from Leeds, is in here next. He did really well last season getting forward, but he didn't actually get the attacking returns to show from it, which is why he hasn't had the potential price increase that we've seen from the likes of Stuart Dallas. Now, with Dallas moving into midfield, we're having to look for another Leeds defender to go with. We could go for Cooper with the goal threat at centre-back, but I've gone with Aling because of that attacking threat he showed from right-back. He gets up and down that right-hand side, puts crosses into the box, as well as having goal threat. He had 5.5 expected attacking returns, so goal or assists last season. So the attacking threat is there. He just didn't capitalise on it, but I think there's a real potential for him to do that. And there's an opportunity for him not to be as good as Dallas was, but opportunity for him to be clean sheet and attacking threat for Leeds next season. A good opening few fixtures. They've got West Ham at home fixtures being more important this season than they were last season. Everton at home, Burnley away, Newcastle away, all in their first 6. So again, if you could have the likes of Aling in your team rotating or just starting every week, I think he's a really nice option to go with at just 4.5 million, and I expect Leeds to produce similar numbers to what they did last year. Next up is Vetra, another and our third Burnley player on the list, who feel like they've got some quite good cheap options and has come in as 5.5 million as a forward this year. So last season, Vetra returned 3.27 points per start, but really came to his own at the end of the season as he formed a really nice partnership with Chris Wood. Now, it does feel like he is going to be the starting forward alongside Wood, who's had a price increase this season to sort of 7 million, whereas Vetra has remained at just 5.5 million. This also makes Vetra the cheapest forward who we think is going to start every week. So if you can't afford one of those pricey forwards, you don't have a midfielder spot left open, then I think Vetra is a really nice option. They have some okay starting fixtures: Brighton at home, Leeds at home, Everton, Arsenal, all in there in their first 6. So 5.5 million I think is a decent price to pay for him. He's not going to set the world light, but we saw at the end of last season and in the Euros that he definitely has an eye for goal and has potential for attacking return. So the 5.5 million for a forward, the best sort of forward at that price. So if you need the funds, definitely an option to consider. And the final people on our list are the 4.0 defenders that could be options for us this season. Just before we do that, if you aren't in the league code down below, make sure you go and do it. There's also a link in the description which will automatically join you into that league. So the 3 that we're considering at the moment, we don't have a player who is nailed to be our 4.0 defender at the moment. There is talk about Manquillo at Newcastle being our 4.0 playing at right wing back. However, there is competition from Murphy, who is a 5.0 midfielder in the game. However, it is a nice start to the season for Newcastle. They have been good defensively at patches over the past couple of years. So if Manquillo is 4.0, he definitely could be a good option. Next up, we have Brandon Williams of currently Manchester United, but he has been linked to Southampton amongst other clubs. I put the Southampton fixtures there, although they have just signed a left back, so it doesn't feel like Brandon Williams to Southampton is a move that's likely to happen to play either at left back or right back. He would probably not get into their starting team now. However, if he does get a move elsewhere, because he isn't going to be playing at Manchester United with Telles, with Luke Shaw there, and Wan-Bissaka on the right-hand side, so I think there is a chance that he gets a move somewhere else, whether it's Southampton or another club, to try and boost his minutes, and that would make him a really nice 4.0 option because he is very attacking whichever side he plays on. But Southampton it could be, but let's hope that he gets a loan somewhere else. And finally on the list, I'm going to have to butcher this name of Omobad Dimidele, who plays for Norwich. Now, Norwich isn't the best defence and they have some difficult fixtures to start the season. However, he did finish the season as part of the Norwich team at centre-back. They have signed a new centre-back which could displace him, but he did play well at the end of last season. So at the moment, there aren't exactly nailed options, but it does feel like there are a few in the works that could also play. Neco Williams at Liverpool is also a player who's potentially going out on loan to another club. For example, Norwich are interested in signing him. So we are waiting and seeing on them at the moment. But at the moment, if I had to pick one, Manquillo feels like the best chance of playing this season. But yeah, it's a bit up in the air about who our 4.0 defender will be or if we'll have one at all. I hope this has been useful. I've got some of these players in my team already as I try to free up funds and able to afford the likes of Salah in my team, Trent, Bruno Fernandes and Harry Kane, for example. I hope they're useful. If there's anyone else as a cheap midfielder, defender, forward or any of the 4.0 million defenders that you are considering, drop them in the comments down below and we can have a chat about any of these other options. If you have enjoyed the video, please smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more videos to come and streams before the season starts and as the season kicks off to help you get the best rank you possibly can. So hit that like button and turn on notifications so you can join those streams and get your questions answered live. But that's all we've got time for, and I will see you all very soon.